Let me ask you a hypothetical question here. Suppose I found somebody who told me a story that said, you know, I knew somebody with warts. No, let's not. I mean, let's go with something actually serious. So somebody says to me, I knew somebody with cancer.
Right.
I sincerely and devoutly prayed that the cancer would go away, and the next day she died.
Wow. Yeah.
What kind of conclusion would you draw from that? Would that tell you anything in particular about the supernatural or the prayer?
Well, I mean, I could ask you the same question about any conventional diagnosis. Obviously, you've given me no information about the person, their stance, their relation to the teachings of the Messiah. So, you know, there's really not enough information. I could twist this question around and ask you, what if I put somebody on chemo and then the next day they died? I mean, that doesn't say anything.
You would say that maybe it's just a coincidence that they prayed and then the very next day that person died.
Well, I think it's pretty self-evident that not everybody that prays is in the same stance with relation to the teachings of the Messiah. That seems pretty obvious.
So now I mean, it's interesting because it seems like you want to support a certain point of view that prayers do magic things. And then when you get a particular example that happens to do the thing that you expect, then you chalk it up to your hypothesis being correct. And, and then when it comes to a hypothetical story that does the opposite of what you'd expect, then you just come up with a roundabout way of changing it so that it still matches up with what you wanted to believe in the first place. That's what John was saying about confirmation bias.
Really interesting points, and I don't mean to take away from them, but I do object to the term magical. I actually perceive these things and understand them to be highly advanced technologies that God's made available to us through the teachings that are in there. But that said, I mean, I would just again repeat that the the example that you gave gives really no details about the person's life. I could turn it around and say, I mean, do you guys believe in, let's say, conventional treatments for cancer, the efficacy of chemotherapy or different types of drugs? If you believe in that, you'd have to know what kind of cancer. You'd have to know what the person, what were they doing that day?
Yeah,
I mean, were they
I do.
Things that were aggravated? It's really disingenuous because on the other side, even your own beliefs couldn't necessarily answer. Could you answer
why I believe that conventional treatments for cancer are effective?
Well, I'm just saying the exact application of your own hypothetical without any other details, it would be kind of foolish to answer that. I mean, I understand maybe in your mind it's
then
simplistic.
Here's an idea.
Yeah.
If you want to subject this idea that prayer cures things to the same standards that conventional therapy is also held to, then what you could do is you could come up with some very rigorous and detailed tests so that you wouldn't rely on one person's anecdote about how one person prayed and then another person got healed and that's a miracle. You could set up studies, in careful ways so that you have a lot of people praying and a lot of people being prayed for, and you could see whether the rate of survival or being cured gets better than people who are not prayed for. Would that, that sort of thing would be helpful?
It's interesting. I don't have maybe the same level of faith in the current framework of science that's there, because I know there are many...
I'm not talking about faith. I'm just saying that your standards should be a little higher than taking one incident and insisting that it can't be just...
Sure. I didn't mean to say faith. Maybe you object to that. Maybe confidence, let's say, that, because there are, of course, a number of effective cancer therapies that are actively ignored by science now. And we don't even need to go to the supernatural. You could talk about natural treatments and everything like that are already being ignored. But, it's interesting to me. You guys have obviously heard other testimonies like this. If there's anybody with, of true faith that's walking in the truth that's calling into this show, and they're not just religious, confused zealots, looking to argue. I'm just curious, in general, you must have heard other testimonies like this. What's your,
yeah, but,
I've heard other atheists say, they believe it could have something to do with the power of the mind or potentially
it may be pithy, but the plural of evidence is, or the plural of anecdote is not data.
Okay.
What I mean is, sometimes people get better, sometimes they don't. But in all the millions and millions of sickness cases that happen in the world every day, taking one individual story and saying that that is representative of a cause and effect isn't good enough.
Yeah, and you have to be really careful, because there's a lot of people with a lot of medical conditions who are being prayed over by their loved ones. How many of them don't ever get better? You see the success, but you don't see the misses. You see the hits, but you don't see the misses. And in fact, there have been several controlled, really well done studies about the efficacy of prayer, and nothing has ever shown up to be significant in controlled studies. So what that tells me is that, some people get, like Russell said, some people get better, some people don't get better, and the prayer or lack of prayer doesn't seem to be the controlling factor.
Well, we're already off base because, Yeshua gave us authority to command healing. It's different from prayer, which is actually asking God to heal. There is a difference. If you read the accounts in the Gospel, remember I approached this scientifically.
No,
so I
you
do
didn't.
look at the details. I do look at the detailed approach.
Seriously, you didn't approach it scientifically. And I'd love to talk to you more, but I think we're down to 10 minutes in the show, and I think I'm.
You guys have been very generous. Thanks for your time. I appreciate.
All right, thank you very much. Feel free to call again.
Okay, later,
Bye,
guys.
Max.
Thanks, Max.